Today, I wanted to talk about this thing that we call amends, making amends, making right the wrong. It's actually like one, and then mend. So it's like I go one by one to make right the wrong. So mend actually means repair from damage or fault. And so as we go through this process of becoming the viable temple of God, as Jesus gave his life up on the cross, the religious order of things was torn down. The place where the priests got to gather and be the go-between the people and God, that got destroyed. That idea of it got destroyed, and we get to be the living temple of God. And so that is quite an honor that we actually get to be have God within us and not just around us. And so that is the good news, that we get to actually have the light and fire of God inside of us. And so through this process of coming into being the viable temple of God, because, just a belief doesn't give us the power of God. And so we start with this belief, and then we go through our faith journey and go through this Life Lab workshop idea, or the 12-step idea, is actually becoming the temple of God, kind of like a corner store. You would have, you know, for 30 years of your corner store being open, you've had these things on the shelves that just don't get sold, and they get older and over the course of time, and they don't become viable. And so just like our hearts over the course of time, if left to our own devices, left to our own self-will, they become unsellable. And so you might have resentment and fears and motives and expectations of what the world around you should be, and you have bitterness and rage and envy and jealousy. All of those things over the course of decades, they become you become this temple that's not really viable for good. It's kind of a poisonous cesspool of a spot. So coming to the realization that I need the actual power of God to clean that up on the inside is a beautiful place to be. So we go through this process that many of us have been on, the cleaning up the temple, the seeing where I have used certain substances, whether that's my phone or relationships or drugs and alcohol, pornography, whatever it is, to actually be symptoms of the cesspool on the inside. And so we get to go through this process of identifying that. We get to go through a process of labeling all of this stuff in here that is really blocking me from the sunlight of the Spirit of God. And I get to put that on the altar of my heart, and for God to burn away, because this isn't about what I can do, it's about what's already been done. And so when I come to God, I bring this stuff here. I don't work against it. I don't try to implement behaviors to change it, because that's futile, and that's religion. It's leaving God out of it. So the holiness of God invited in, as we come out of consent with the enemy of fear, we put it on the altar and we say, take the good and the bad. I don't even know what the difference is. Take my motives, take my expectations, take all of this stuff that's actually separated me from the love of God. It separated me from people, where I've used people, where I've manipulated people, where there's been division with people, where there's been expectations, all of that stuff. Would you just take that away? Because it's just, symptomatic of my own self-will, of what I can get, what I can get for myself. Even in codependency, it seems so outward of what I could do for everybody, but it's really about what they can take for themselves. Um, and so we get to this point of seeing how I've hurt the world around me, seeing how I've taken advantage, seeing where I've manipulated, seeing where I've been dishonest, seeing all of the bad fruit in my life, the fruit of fear, let's call it. It's opposite of the fruit of God. We'll just put it that way. So when I look at what's in here in the temple of my heart, it's for my own good. It's not for the world around me. And so I get to see who I've harmed. I get to actually see how fear as a slave driver in my life has actually harmed people. And so I get to go into this part of making amends. I get into my recovery enough to go like, okay, remember I've said I'll do whatever it takes. I've turned my will and my life over to the care of God. We didn't really know what we were saying there. Like when we give our lives, we surrender our lives, and then we're like, oh, surrender's not good enough. I have to abandon my life for this new life to take place. And we've always reminded people, remember, you're willing to do whatever it takes to have the love of God as the centrality of my life. For that change to happen, I have to go to any lengths. And so now we're into this process of amending the world around us. We look at this process called reaping and sowing. And so where there's been these seeds of the enemy that has planted your former temple, it's growing, resentments and fear and jealousy, all of those things. We're going to take away that garden. We're leaving that garden for a new garden. And so now we get into seeing the damage that I've done, seeing the people that I've hurt that I didn't even know I hurt. Now I know the reason why I've hurt these people. They might not even have known it, but I've taken from them. I've manipulated them or whatever it is. I haven't been the best self that I would want to be. I haven't been bringing my strength to relationships. I've been consuming relationships, and now I get to see it. And so now I have this list of amends. So if you're taking a life lab, you have these little cue cards and you have names on them, and it says, here's the harm that I believe that I've done. And we are commissioned now to start reaping and sowing the love of God, the joy of God, the unity of God, to cultivate the garden, so to say, that we grow new fruit. And so now we have these cards every morning. When I work with somebody new, they might have like 10 cards or 50 cards or 500 cards. And I say, bring that into your morning time and let God direct you on these amends. So most of my work nowadays comes from actually helping other people do their amends. I get a lot of calls from sponsors and pace setters of like, I've come into this problem. How do I solve it? I don't know how to guide this person in making this amends. Or this person doesn't believe they need to make an amends. So how do I help this person? How do I be of help to other people? And so I go to my mentor more about how to help people through amends than any other reason that I call them. And so on page 70 of the big book, it says, in this book, we read again and again, faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you from him. So what gets in the way of my relationship with God? Self-will. If you have already made a decision and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, that's what we're talking about, the bad seeds in our lives that have grown bad fruit, you have made a good beginning. That being said, we have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. And so it's a fun place to be because you get to see the hurt and the harms that you've done. So many of us like to just push it under the rug. Oh, I'm a new creation. That, it's okay. Like, I'm forgiven. They're forgiven. We're all forgiven. We all move on. But the reality is, you still have that stuff on the inside that's disunity, and God brings unity. And so that can be very hard for most of us, is like actually facing the damage we've done because now we get to see it. So on page 76, it says, now we need more action. Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. So my faith needs action behind it. Let's look at the steps 8 and 9. So this is where this amends part is found. We made a list of all the people that we have harmed and be willing to make amends with them. We made it when we took our inventory. We subjected ourselves to drastic self-appraisal. Now we go out with our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away debris which is accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will. and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember, we agreed to do anything at the beginning, to go to any lengths for victory over our problems, over alcohol, over pornography, over food, whatever it is. So the real reason that we're doing it is a principle, and our real purpose is to be able to fit ourselves to be maximum service to God and those around us. And so that's the reason we want to do this. We want to have good fruit to be of benefit to other people. We look at, if you're like me, you get to see this come true in your life. Like, so it says on page 82 of the big book, and I believe that this book is the Bible for dummies, the simple version of death of self, of the observation that me on my own get my results, and I need the power of God in my life. And so this is really the gospel dumbed down for some of us. So it says the alcoholic, fill in the blank for yourself, is like a tornado marring his way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken, sweet relationships are dead, affections have been uprooted, selfish and inconsiderate habits have been kept the home in turmoil. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough. He is like the farmer who came out of his cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife, he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing?" Yes, there's a period of reconstruction ahead. We must take the lead. A remorseful mumbling that we are sorry won't fit the bill at all. We ought to sit down with family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it. We're very careful not to criticize them. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions have been partly responsible. So we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, and kindness. This spiritual life isn't a theory, we have to live it. I was reminded of an inventory that you can do. It's called the tornado inventory. It's a good place to start if you're new at this. And if you like put your hands out and you're in your living room, just walk around spinning and shut your eyes. And at some point, you're going to make a mess. The longer you do it, the more mess you're going to make. There's going to be lamps. There's going to be tables involved. There might be a cat that's screaming. You're creating your own little tornado, and you'll see the mess that you made. But us, apart from God, make the same kind of mess. I think it's really good to actually start there. Like, what are the messes of relationships that I've actually done? It's called the tornado inventory. A great place to start. I was reminded in Luke 19 of a tax collector, and he was one of his own people, and he collected tax for the Roman Empire. So he was a Jewish guy. He was collecting taxes from his own people, but taking advantage of it. He was a hated man by his own people. The other people that he collected taxes for, they didn't even really like him either. And his name is Zacchaeus. And he heard about Jesus because this man of great wealth and of ripping people off, he really had no friends on either side, but he had great wealth. He had, a big house, he had servants, he had all of the things that this world had to offer, except the connection with others, the unity of God's love. And so he was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see in the crowd. So he ran over ahead, climbed a sycamore tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. And that's the beautiful thing, that Jesus came. This relationship isn't for those that got it all together. It's the lowest of the low. It's the worst of the worst. It's the ones that are taking advantage. It's for the people like me that there is no hope for, that society rejects it, that everybody hates. You could have the cattle on a million hills, or you can, be living on the streets and still have the same heart. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He's gone to be the guest of a sinner." And isn't that who this relationship's for? The people saw this and began to mutter. Zacchaeus stood up and said, Lord, Lord, look, Lord, here I now give half of my possession to the poor, and if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay them four times the amount. Jesus said, today salvation has come into his house because this man too is, for the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. And that's who this relationship is for. This relationship with God is for those that are lost, those that are seeking a new solution, a new answer, a new way of living, a new temple to get rid of this crap on the inside. I remember being at a homeless shelter in 2005 and getting into their treatment center, and I said, I don't care what they do, like whether that shock therapy, like I didn't even know, whatever they're going to do, I just need this to stop. And only God growing his temple on the inside of a human can get that noise to stop. And those are the promises that have come true to me. So as I meet God and go through this process, I'm compelled to make amends to the world around me. You see this man that ripped off his own people. He's willing to give four times the amount back. He's willing to pay back everybody that's ever he's ever ripped anybody off. And so that's the heart of true repentance. I'm willing to go and make amends no matter what the cost is. People come to me with like these questions all the time. One guy that I was working with, he owed about $20,000. He was sober for about 3 years. He owed $20,000 to a drug dealer. And I didn't know what to do with that because part of my heart says like if you criminal activities, you don't really have to pay back. So he had talked to this guy that he owed the money to, and he wasn't scared of him. He actually threatened the guy to say, "Hey, if you got a problem with the money that I owe you, feel free to come to my house anytime. The door will be open." And so I consulted with my sponsor, and my sponsor said, "Yeah, you don't have to pay back criminal activities, money that's owed." But he said, "How much does this guy want to be free?" And then there was a little twist. And then as we got together, what would the world do? So if you owe a bunch of money and you're in debt with 10 organizations and credit cards and lenders, you could consolidate. So I used that principle, and I said to this guy, I said, "Hey, part of this is, do you want to be free? Do you have to pay it back? No. But do you want to be free? How about 5 years from now, you have a wife and kids and you're walking in the mall and this guy sees you and he's having a really bad day and you owe him 20 grand. It might not go favorably for your child. So if you're not afraid to contact him yourself, why don't you contact him and say, hey, my man, I'm in this recovery process. I've been sober for 3 years or so, and I need to make amends, and I owe you something. And so would you be willing to take 2 grand or 5 grand, and can I make payments or whatever it is? How about infidelity? I believe that we have to be honest because where we've hidden, where we've been dishonest, we need honesty. So there's infidelities, whether that's pornography, whether that's, at certain parlors or strip clubs and that kind of stuff. There's lifestyles that many of us have lived that just use and chug people around us. And we seek validation from these relationships. I believe that the safe bet is not getting the other people involved. And so, yes, I can be open with my wife. I can be open with what's happened with me, but I don't want to drag another name into it. Unless she really wants to know, unless it feels appropriate, then those kind of things, like we just have to be led by the Spirit of God. Other things like finances and paying people back. I know that my sponsor had a kid out of wedlock, never saw him, never paid for that child. And as he was in recovery, part of his amends was finding a lady at his church and giving her anonymous money every month. And so he did this for 15 years. He was able to give this lady $350 every month. as payment for not being involved in another person's in his child's other child's life. For me, my experience with criminal record, I've been able to get a pardon. It's taken me 14 years and 4 admissions, but finally last year I received a Canadian pardon. That is amending my criminal record. So when I go get my CPIC, when I go get my vulnerable sector, I have nothing on it. Also, I was not able to go into the United States of America. I've been deemed inadmissible. And so this year, going through the application, I finally was able to be admissible. So I now have a US waiver and I can travel. Not that I'm going to anytime soon, but when the opportunity arrives, I can go to the United States of America. How about hate and gossip? I believe that there are people that we have written off and hated, and part of amends is going to them and looking at the harm that you may have caused. When it comes to gossip, you never go to somebody and say, "Hey, I gossiped about you." Go to the people that you've actually gossiped to and amend that, taking ownership of how you've gossiped. And so you're going to take these amendment cards into the process of your prayer meditation. These are like seeds that you're going to be sowing. This is the seed of unity, the seed of joy, the seed of love, the seed of self-control, all of the fruit of God. As I go forth, I start reaping the benefit. So I always reap the benefit after. I always reap the benefit more of, and I reap the benefit of what I'm actually sowing. And you'll see as you start making amends, you just grow and grow and grow more and more. It's an amazing thing to be a part of. It can be very hard, but you're going to have a hard time explaining internally what's happening to you. Because as these fruits grow in you, as you have unity with God, as you have his love, as you have his peace and his joy and his stick-to-itness, his perseverance, his endurance, all of those things, you're like, it's so hard to explain, but it's happening on the inside. And now you have sellable product to the world around you. Because now you come in with integrity. Now you see people for who they are and you have empathy for them. You're not coming in to take, you're coming in to give. And so it starts to change you from the inside out as you go into the world to do God's bidding. And so this is a vital part of the process of amending, of living a spiritual life, of having a new way of living.